Hey drummers, I'm Brad Schlueter. In this video lesson, we're going to be taking a look at some of the drumming from the great Todd Sucherman. Now, if you've seen Todd play live with his band Styx, or perhaps in a drum clinic, or maybe you've just seen his DVDs, Methods and Mechanics Volumes 1 and 2, you'll know I'm not exaggerating when I refer to Todd as a great drummer. He has seemingly limitless technique, speed, ideas, and facility around the kit, but more importantly, he's musical and has a deep commitment to groove. I think it's those last two qualities that have really propelled him to the top of his career. The first example we're going to check out is from a song called Hanging by the Falling Wallendas. This was a group Todd played with before he was involved in Styx back in the 90s. Now in the song Hanging, there's a breakdown that happens about 3/4 of the way through the song. It plays a relatively simple kick and snare pattern, but embellishes it really creatively with his hi-hat and splash. Let's check that out now. In order to learn something like this, you're going to have pretty strong double stroke rolls. In particular, Todd's using a lot of 7-stroke rolls as well as 5-stroke rolls. The first breakdown is basically going to be the pattern that occurs at the end of the odd numbered measures, measures 1, 3, 5, and 7. On count 4, he plays a loud snare note followed by a 7-stroke roll beginning with his left hand, landing on his right hand on the beginning of the next measure. The next part I want to break down are bars 3 and 4 of this 8-bar cycle. In this, Todd plays the basic pattern with an open hi-hat on count 4 of the second measure. Once you get this cycle down, you can add the other embellishments that involve the splash cymbal and the 5-stroke roll that follows it. The next part I want to break down is the ear-catching fill that occurs in the 8th bar. And in this section, Todd plays a snare note on 1, a bass drum on the E of 1, the next snare is on the and of 2, followed by a bass drum on the of 2, and then a snare on the and of 3, and then 4E and going to his high tom and a crash to lead the section. Lastly, I'm going to put all 8 measures together. Check it out. Our next example is off Styx's latest prog rock opus, The Mission. It's from the tune Overture, and in the middle of that, Todd plays a very cool, very fast, very tricky, and completely unique pattern that has a polyrhythmic feel against the quarter note of 3 against 2. Let's give it a listen. Now this pattern has a 3 against 2 feel because Todd is basically playing 16th note triplets, but rather than group them in groups of 6 where it would have a quarter note feel, he uses groupings of 9 notes to give it a dotted quarter note or a 3 against 2 feel. The first note of the 9-note grouping is moved between various parts of his drum set, beginning on his gong bass drum. Since I don't have one of those, I'll be revoicing this onto my 6-piece drum set. But Todd essentially starts back here. He's moving between his snare and each of his toms as he goes up his kit. Now each one of these strikes at the beginning of the pattern will be a dotted quarter note away from the last one. And that gives it this weird shifting kind of feel that I think is really cool. The sticking pattern he uses incorporates a pedaled hi-hat as the 4th note. In other words, you step on the hi-hat rather than hit it. That requires a little bit extra coordination. The basic sticking is right hand, left hand, left foot, left hand, right hand, left hand, right foot. Another step you might want to take is to take that 9-note grouping and play 2 of them in a row, where you move between the tom and the snare. The next step will be to move between the toms and the snare and move it up the kit as you gradually get used to faster and faster speeds. Our next example is also from the following Wallendas. It's from a song called Lion on the Lamb. And about halfway through the song, the band breaks down and Todd plays this ripping fill to bring the band back into the tune. Let's check it out. First time I heard this lick, I thought it was more complicated than it actually is. Once I broke it down and analyzed, I realized it was actually pretty simple. So it's perfect for intermediate level drummers. The basic idea here is that Todd is playing 4/2 as a sextuplet rhythm. And what I mean by 4/2 is he's playing 4 notes with his hands and 2 notes with his kick drum. So he's going right, left, right foot, left foot, all at the same speed. Let me demonstrate that slowly on the snare drum just so you understand that 4/2 concept. The reason this fill actually sounds cool isn't so much the toms that Todd is throwing into the fill, it's where he places the snares. And that gives it sort of its off-kilter, deceptive quality. When the first time I heard it, I thought it was a mixture of quads, which would be 2/2, instead of just 4/2 the whole time. And that had to do with where he was throwing those snares. So if you think about it, when you're playing around your toms, you get all this low-end rumble, especially when you play fast. So where you put the snares really shapes the pattern and gives it its own unique identity. Let me demonstrate that for you slowly so you can sort of see it and get a better understanding of it. So the pattern really isn't that difficult. I think what makes it interesting, again, is that snare placement. I don't think the toms really matter. I think if you play in a bigger kit or a smaller kit and you put those snares in the same spot, it's essentially going to sound the same way, especially when you speed it up. Let's try that now. I'm going to play it at a slightly faster speed and then I'll go for full tempo. Our final example is from a live video, a drum cam shot of Todd playing with his band Styx, playing the song The Outpost off their latest record, The Mission. And in this live video, there's one part of the song where he plays this blistering fill that I was dying to figure out. Let's check it out. This is not an easy one. The way I think of this pattern is basically there are 4 sections to it. There's the opening, there's a left hand run around the toms, there's the band hits with the cymbals, and then there's the double bass portion at the end. So let's start with the first part. Essentially what Todd is doing here is he's playing a Steve Gadd lick. It's based on a single rhythm. That rudiment is played right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right. So let me play a progression of the idea from the single rhythm to the final pattern that Todd is playing. Now that I've played all the pieces, it's time to start putting it together. I'm going to start at moderately slow and then gradually ramp up the speed. I'm going to try it a little bit faster now. Let me push it a little bit more. I'm going to try it at full speed. I hope you found this useful and interesting. I'm Brad Schlueter. Thank you for watching.